Ciano noted.
Mussolini claimed to be pleased by the fact that Italians managed to horrify by their aggression instead of giving pleasure as mandolin players. This, in his opinion, makes us rise in the consideration of the Germans, who love total and ruthless war.
Mussolini also told Ciano,
Italians must learn to be less sympathetic, to become hard, implacable, hateful, masters.
Mussolini tried to impress Hitler by declaring that Italians were Aryans like the Germans. The Jews were an inferior race.
Formal laws are then passed, effectively disenfranchising the Jewish community in its entirety, kicking them out of public office, kicking Jewish school children out of school, preventing them from attending university, participating in public office.
Ettore Ovazza, the proud patriotic war veteran and devoted fascist, wrote a personal appeal to the Duce.
I write poorly because my hand is trembling. It is the end of a reality, that of our feeling one with the Italian people. How many, starting in 1919 and up until today, have followed you with love through so many battles, wars, living your life? Is all this over? Was it all a dream we nurtured?
Mussolini's first edicts divided the Jews. Long-standing fascists like Ovazza and decorated Jewish veterans were allowed to keep their jobs and businesses, and even to remain fascist party members. Meanwhile, Hitler continued on the road to war. Now he gave Czechoslovakia an ultimatum: give up the German-speaking provinces of Sudetenland or face invasion. Ciano lamented.
Naturally, the objective will be to destroy Czechoslovakia completely. It is war. God protect Italy and the Duce.
Europe held its breath. But at the last moment, Britain begged Mussolini to try to delay the German ultimatum by 24 hours. That evening, Mussolini and Ciano departed for Munich. Hitler told Mussolini he wanted all of the Sudetenland, which had been part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire but had been ceded to the new state of Czechoslovakia after the First World War. At the Munich conference, Mussolini presented Hitler's plan as his own. All the leaders signed the Munich Agreement that gave Germany the Sudetenland. In return, Hitler promised this was his last territorial demand in Europe. Czechoslovakia was left defenseless, having lost nearly all her mountain fortifications. But appeasement had averted the war. Ciano witnessed the resulting adulation.
In Italy, from the Brenner Pass to Rome, from the king to the peasants, the Duce receives welcomes as I have never seen.
Mussolini won great respect abroad and great popularity at home because he appeared as the peacemaker. But there's a very funny thing about this, that Mussolini himself wasn't at all pleased. He went home muttering, all the crowds are cheering me as the man of peace. But I don't want to be the man of peace. I want to be the man of war.
A few days after this crisis, Mussolini introduced even tougher anti-Semitic laws. These laws ended equality for all Jews, even dedicated fascists. Ettore Ovazza had to sell the family bank and resign from the fascist party. In March 1939, Hitler tore up the Munich Agreement. German troops marched into the rump of Czechoslovakia, the first time they had occupied non-German speaking territory. Hitler did not even warn Mussolini. Only afterwards, the German ambassador Hess told Mussolini,
The Führer thanks Italy for unshakable Italian support.
Mussolini was in despair.
Every time Hitler grabs a country, he sends me a message.
The march of fascism seemed unstoppable when Franco finally triumphed in the Spanish Civil War. To keep up with Hitler, Mussolini seized Albania in April 1939. Later that year, Ciano wrote,
First report of imminent action against Poland. War.
Ciano knew Italy was not ready for war.
The ammunition depots are lacking in ammunition. Artillery is outmoded. Our anti-aircraft and anti-tank weapons are altogether non-existent. Our gold reserves are reduced to almost nothing. We must avoid war.
Despite this, Mussolini ordered his foreign minister Ciano to go to Berlin to sign one of the most disastrous military agreements in history, the Pact of Steel. This required Italy to go to war whenever Germany did. In this agreement, both Germany and Italy promised not to provoke a major European conflict for at least 3 years. But just 3 months later, in Salzburg, Ciano learned directly from Ribbentrop, the Nazi foreign minister, of Hitler's real plans.
He said, gazing at me with his cold metallic eyes,
We want war. Poland must be invaded, defeated, annihilated, and annexed to the Third Reich in the same fashion as Austria and Czechoslovakia.
Hitler basically followed his own designs. He marched to his own drummer. He implemented his own foreign policy. He didn't even take Italy into consideration in terms of discussion before considering his major changes in foreign policy.
After meeting Hitler, Ciano knew Europe would be engulfed in war.
he has decided to strike, and strike he will. The fate that might befall us does not interest them in the least.
Ciano felt desperate and powerless.
I returned to Rome completely disgusted with Germany and its leaders. They have betrayed us and lied to us.
But even Ciano could not have guessed what was coming next. Hitler stunned Italy with a political masterstroke. He signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviets, which secretly carved up Poland.
5:25 a.m. Germany attacks Poland. 11 a.m. Britain declares war on Germany.
Ciano struggled hard to keep Mussolini out of the war.
The idea of joining the Germans attracts him, but I must fight to the end. Otherwise, it will mean the ruin of the country, the ruin of fascism, and the ruin of the Duce himself.
Mussolini told Ciano,
"The Italians, after having heard my warlike propaganda for 18 years, cannot understand how I can become the herald of peace, now Europe is in flames."
Mussolini, I think, always saw Italy's inability to enter the war in September 1939 as a failure, something which he was embarrassed about, rather ashamed of. He is still, in international terms, a revolutionary, that he is a man with a mission. He has to leave his mark on history by making Italy great or greater. He can't do this without war.
as the Germans swept across democratic Europe in 1940, Mussolini could restrain himself no longer. He declared war on France and Britain. Ciano wrote,
"The adventure begins. May God help Italy."
The most awful, I think the most contemptible reason Mussolini gave for going to war was he said, we need a few thousand dead in order to be able to sit at the conference table. And he thinks that's going to be it.
In the first month, the Italian army made little progress in its invasion of France. Mussolini blamed his soldiers rather than himself.
It is the material that I lack. Even Michelangelo needed marble to make statues. If he had only clay, he would have been nothing more than a potter.
Mussolini planned to run a parallel war with Germany. While Hitler grabbed territories north of the Alps, he would grab countries around the Mediterranean.